Hello everyone, and welcome to Autocrat. This is episode 107, The War Hero's Grandson.
We've arrived in 672 BCE.
We have. Numa Pompilius has finally died after a reign of 43 years and in his 80s. However, unlike Romulus, this king has sons and a daughter. Will this be relevant for the succession or for future successions?
Probably.
Let's find out. Plutarch doesn't give us much. He just says that the next king was dismissive of Numa's peaceful ways, but we already knew that, so what gives? Well, Livy mercifully gives us a bit more detail.
Thank you, Livy. I like you for once.
When Numa died, an interregnum happened once again. So, for the second time, we get senators swapping out power every few days from interrex to interrex. Now, Livy doesn't tell us how long this one lasted, in contrast with Romulus's death. After however long it took, the people chose one Tullus Hostilius, and his nomination was ratified by the Senate. So, Rome had its third, or maybe fourth, king. Now, does the name Hostilius in any way seem familiar? Probably not. I wrote these notes when we were doing them one every week. However, it is because he is the paternal grandson of a certain Hostius Hostilius, who was the fighter involved in the fight against the Sabines following the rape of the Sabine women we talked about in episode 101. His father had apparently been young when his grandfather died. Tullus was very different to the peace-loving and religious Numa.
Oh, was he?
In fact, we're told he was downright dismissive of Numa's peaceful ways. Remember that bit from earlier?
So what was he like? Even more warlike?
Oh yes, even more warlike than Romulus, in fact.
Wow.
This is because he was keen to live up to his martial grandfather, and was young and vigorous.
But to be young and vigorous.
You're only 26.
Yes, we're recording this on my birthday, by the way.
Yes, we are. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I definitely already said that, and this isn't the first time we've brought it up or mentioned it today. Tullus believed that, in the 43 years of his predecessor's rule, Rome had, and I quote, been allowed to lapse into senility. Accordingly, he began looking for a fight to inject fresh fighting spirit into the Romans. This opportunity came in the form of Alba Longa. Now, we haven't spoken properly about Alba Longa since the days of Numitor's restoration in episode 98.
No, we haven't.
Romulus had possibly inherited it during his reign, as we also saw. Well, by the time of Tullus Hostilius, the ruler of Alba Longa is a man by the name of Gaius Clulius. Not sure how he relates to any of the kings of Alba Longa of Romulus's line, but hey-ho. At this time, there were mutual cattle-stealing raids going on between the two kingdoms of Rome and Alba Longa. Both states sent out ambassadors to negotiate an end to it at roughly the same time. The Roman diplomats were told by Rome that they would almost definitely be turned away, and they had particular orders which they were supposed to push for as soon as they showed up. Now I'm assuming, from the fact that these aren't mentioned, that the Roman demands were outrageously high and designed to provoke the Alba Longans to war. What we do know is that it was hoped their being refused would allow Tullus Hostilius to declare war on Alba while being the aggrieved party, not just rushing into war with a bad conscience. For their part, the Alba Longans were slower in coming to the negotiating table. They were welcomed graciously by Tullus Hostilius and feasted with the Romans. What they did not know was that the Roman envoys over in Alba Longa at the same time had already pushed for recompense and been refused by King Clulius, so they're here pointlessly. Accordingly, the envoys had announced that war would be declared 30 days from then, so the Alba Longan envoys were basically taking part in a useless mission. War is already coming. The Roman diplomats then came back reporting the declaration of war, and King Tullus then pressed the Alban envoys to state what their goal was. I like to imagine they were being grilled like this while at the banquet still and with a chicken wing halfway to their mouth, thinking, Still oblivious, the Albans stated they did not want to offend their host in any way, but they admitted they were under orders to get compensation from Rome for the raids or else declare war. Tullus now spoke to the envoys. They were to tell Clulius that the Albans were the first party to refuse to make amends for the raids. Bear in mind the Albans have no idea this has actually just happened. The Romans just prayed the kingdom who was at fault would, quote, suffer all the miseries of the coming war. Again, the Alban envoys were probably very confused. So
I would be too.
yeah, they went back and told what Tullus had said, but the point is, war's on. And Rome now looks like it wasn't the aggressive party, even though it just manipulated its way into war. Both Alba Longa and Rome now prepared for a fight, and it's a war which Livy says was basically a civil war. I mean, given that Romulus had once been king of both kingdoms, you can see his point. Livy adds that Lavinium had been populated by Trojans, and Alba with men from Lavinium, while Rome came from Alba Longa, so it's basically like a fight between son and father. In the end, Livy notes no full-on battle would be fought between the two, which does make this better. But still, despite this bit of foreshadowing, we are now at war. We'll cover what actually happens in the war next time.
Now, the thing is, Livy is kind of the only source we have for this, because we do not actually have anything from Cassius Dio, because the fragment concerning this event has been lost, which is really sad.
It's very upsetting.
So we really only have Livy right now.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go with what Livy says, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we might have had some others, but I didn't really get time to check any of those.
But if we get time to check them, we'll come back to it and tell you guys if we find anything new. But usually everybody kind of say the same thing anyway.
Yeah. The basic point is just shenanigans.
Yeah. And we're now at war.
We're now at war, and next time we'll see how that goes. So until then, thank you all for listening, everyone, and have a great banquet with envoys.
Yeah, have a great time.
Oh, and a great week as well.
And a great millennium.